welcome to the podcast. We have been talking about all things shadow work. We have learned what shadow work is. What are some of the signs that you're ready to do shadow work? We've learned that shadow work is taking a look at your shadows, and your shadows are your unconscious blocks. It's those repeated programs, it's those triggers, and it's learning to take an honest look at them because we've been repressing them and rejecting them for perhaps decades. So that's what shadow work is. It's taking an honest look at those triggers, those unconscious blocks, those shadows, so that we can go toward the life that we want and have peace. So that's the whole point of shadow work. That's what we've been talking about. And I've written a book about it. It is a workbook. It's a guided journal. It teaches you all about shadow work. And with these podcasts and with this book, it's a masterclass on how to do it. So I'm happy to share on this platform with you along with the book. So we have learned that shadow work has to do with looking at our shadows, which is our unconscious blocks. And our unconscious blocks are stored in our brain. So we've looked at how the brain works, how the body reacts to stress and stress hormones, and how we stay in these cycles of negativity. And that's why it's so important to do shadow work, so that we can take charge of our emotions, so that our emotions no longer take charge of us, and we're no longer on autopilot and repeat. So that's a quick summary of all the things we've already talked about. And now in this episode, we're going to look at 2 of the 7 brain hacks that I have shared in this book. Now, these brain hacks that I share here are some of the greatest hacks, in my humble opinion. They've helped me tremendously with my shadow work, and I use them all the time with my clients in my one-on-one coaching. So I'm going to share a couple of them with you. The first one is one of the most powerful. Of course, they all are. It's by Suzanne Giesemann. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work, but she's an easy Google search if you'd like to learn more about Suzanne. She's absolutely amazing. This is one of her most powerful techniques. It's called the no-fault process, and it's all about not blaming or shaming anyone, especially and including yourself. So no one's to blame when you get triggered, right? Not the guy that cut you off in traffic. Not the friend that said the thing that upset you so bad. Nobody is to blame, but neither are you. So how do you do the no-fault process? It's a powerful tool to do while doing shadow work. And I share it in the book here. Here it is. It's an acronym, the no-fault. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through what is the no-fault process all about. Step 1 is N, notice. Become aware of any uncomfortable feelings or behaviors in yourself. Make the commitment to be aware and notice. So just becoming aware that I am uncomfortable right now. So that's just getting in touch with your feelings. And it might sound so simple, but honestly, so many of us don't even know what our feelings are or how to get in sync, in connection to our feelings. So that first step is the most powerful. Notice what the feelings are. O stands for observe. Take a step back and observe your reaction with interest and curiosity. Step back and say, well, isn't that interesting? So not only are you observing your feeling, acknowledging the feeling, but now you're observing it, if you can, like an observer. So like you're looking at it like a perfect stranger, like, well, isn't that interesting that that person completely overreacted to being cut off in traffic? Isn't that interesting? That's just one example. The third one is feel. Feelings are for feeling, not for repressing. So what are you feeling? Is it anger, frustration? Don't shove it down. So like I said, so many of us are not in touch with our feelings. This is such a great way to get in touch with them. Get the journaling out if that helps you. Of course, I definitely guide you on journals like this. But get the pen and paper out. What are you feeling? So say you are the person that's getting caught off in traffic and you get home and now it's time to observe that. You completely overreacted to being cut off in traffic. Let's observe, let's notice it, let's observe it. And now let's talk about what you are feeling. And then A stands for allow. Acknowledge the feeling and the fact that you have the right to feel that way. Uncover what's beneath it. You might need to dig deep. So, yes, it's okay. You don't need to judge yourself. It is okay that you got very upset about being cut off in traffic. Okay, so now let's get a little bit deeper. But why is that? Why is that triggered you so bad? U stands for uncover. What is the story that led to your triggered emotion? Keep in mind, most of our wounding comes before age 7. So that's something I actually mentioned in a previous podcast here, is most of our programs are programmed into our minds before age 7. So isn't that interesting that all these decades later, we're still trying to uncover what was that program? What was that? What was the lie that I believed and then I just kept living it? That's what the importance of unlocking our shadows is all about, so that we can live as free adults and enjoy life. That's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have peace. But if we're stuck in these programs, so many of them started in our childhood, most of them did, it's time to take our power back. L stands for love. Normalize loving yourself with no conditions. Be the unconditionally loving parent to your wounded self. So, I mean, now we're getting really deep. Now you might need to start doing some inner child work. This might bring that up for you. And maybe something happened when you were young, and maybe the adults in your life didn't believe you and didn't support you. Now it's time to reparent yourself and be that unconditionally loving adult to your younger self. Love yourself no matter what happened, no matter what you did. Love yourself unconditionally. And then T is the last step. So it's talk and tap. Talk to yourself lovingly to clear out the charge of the trigger. So if you need to do some inner child, I love to do inner child work. And what I do is I just close my eyes and I imagine talking to my younger self. But you can grab a picture of your younger self, or you can journal out to your younger self and just talk to the little one, your younger self. I usually choose around age 5, but whatever works for you, and just talk to them lovingly about what just happened and talk them through. And maybe you were the only adult that's going to do that to your younger self. Maybe that never happened. Maybe you never did get that support. And then TAP stands for tapping, EFT, to dissolve the emotions. You know, tapping. Does anyone do tapping? It's a quick Google search and it's really handy and I love it. It gets you back into your body and it connects you to your feelings. So tapping is very, very powerful. You don't need to take a course on it or anything. You can do a quick Google search. So the last step is to talk and tap. Now, next to the no fault process in the book here, I've added one of Suzanne's great quotes. And it says, your greatest teachers are the ones who push your buttons. It's called the no fault process for a reason. It's so you don't point the blame at you or them. So I'm actually currently writing another book, and it's all about that quote. And it's about honestly embracing your greatest teachers in life. Usually your greatest teachers in life are the ones that have hurt you the most, or you've perceived them to hurt you. So of course, if you were abused as a child, of course that's wrong. And of course, and that's part of the no fault process. Of course, you're allowed to feel that. Of course, you're allowed to feel that I was innocent. You were wrong. You took my innocence from me. Of course, you're allowed to feel that. That's all part of this process. It's a reparenting process, which is so beautiful. And a lot of it does take you back to your inner child and talking to your inner child. You don't need to have a big process. If you want to set up an altar and get the candle going and the music, you can do all that. But all you have to do is imagine your younger self and talk to them. Talk to them the way you needed to be talked to. And it's done wonders for me talking to my younger self. And I keep her in my thoughts and in my prayers all the time, my younger self. And it's changed a lot for me. So that's why I wanted to bring up the no fault process and to give you a little hint about my future book, because the people that push our buttons, the people that bring up our triggers, are the people that show us our shadows. Now, are you willing to do that work? That's how I ended the last podcast too, is usually people stop at around this stage. So they get to this part of the book. You've only read that much. There's a whole bunch more to go. And people quit because they realize they need to change. Shadow work is about you changing. It's not about blaming anyone anymore. It's not about staying in victim stories anymore. It's not about telling the story. Okay, let me tell you the big elaborate thing. She said this, and then I did that, and then he went over here. You're stopping all the stories, and it's hard, and it's because it's addictive. And we talked about that in one of the last podcasts about how stress hormones create the addiction of the cycle. And so we're stopping that. And the no fault process is such a beautiful way of stopping it, going straight to the source, which is your younger self, and seeing what it's about, asking what are the, feelings are for feeling. And so what am I feeling and where is this coming from? So that's why I love the no fault process. So again, I'm giving you 2 of my brain hacks, although I give 7 in the book, and they've worked wonders for me. And that's why I'm sharing them in the book and here on the podcast. So I'm about to give you another one, a second brain hack. This is one of my favorites, and I gave you a little clue about this in the last podcast. And it's called Rewrite the Script of Your Life. Now, this is from Dolores Cannon. She's one of my great teachers. I am actually a QHHT practitioner, and so she taught that. She taught this hypnotherapy technique, and I've taken her course, and I have done hypnosis on myself, on others, and that's a whole other thing. We can talk about QHHT in another podcast if you like, but Dolores Cannon offered this up. It's the Rewrite the Script. It's extremely simple. It's easy to do. However, it takes practice, just like shadow work does. It's when you understand it, it makes sense, but it actually takes focus and it takes practice. That's the same with this Rewrite the Script technique. Okay, so I'm just going to read from the book now. Life is but a dream, and you are the producer, the director, and the main character of your script. You get addicted to the drama of the script, just as you get addicted to the stress hormones that take over your mind. So let's stop this negative cycle by rewriting the script. And this is to quote Dolores. You can change the script anytime you want. You're the writer, you're the actor. If you don't like the way the scene is going, change it. This is how much power we have, and we don't realize it. You're just an actor wearing a costume to play this part. End quote. And then I give this guided journal for you to write thinking about this. So the guided journal prompt that I write is, think of a storyline in your life that you would like to rewrite. It's time to take back your power and rewrite the script to a different storyline. Write down the specifics of the story. Who will you be in this new storyline? How will it feel? Where will you be? Be specific. So I give you room to do that. And yes, I did also give you a journal prompt for the no fault process for Suzanne's no fault process. Okay, so rewrite the script of your life. It's so simple, but it's so huge. And when you get into that power and you start to remember who you aren't that drama. You aren't that storyline. You aren't that timeline. You aren't that fragile person that every time something like this happens, you break through the glass. No, you actually are like a crystal, right? You've lived a long life, like a crystal forms over the years under the ground. You actually are that crystal, right? Here's my crystals. You actually are that crystal. You are strong. You're not that fragile person anymore. You're ready to do the shadow work. You're ready to look at it so that you can transmute it into something beautiful. You're no longer that person that gets so triggered and so offended. No, that's not you anymore. And it's with brain hacks like this, taking the no fault process, blaming no one anymore, stopping the stories. So I go into more brain hacks like that about how you can stop stories, how you can actually question your stories So if you're having a really hard time and you're super addicted to telling your story to everyone that you meet, okay, no problem, no judgment. This is the way to pick apart your story to see if it's even true in the first place. I give that brain hack in here too. Again, the brain hacks that I put in, there's 7 of them. And they're the ones that have been so powerful in my journey of stopping the stories, stopping the drama. I'll give you one example. It was like about 5 years ago. I stopped gossiping, and it is shocking how much people gossip, how much I was gossiping. And then once I made the effort to stop gossiping, you start to realize everybody's gossiping. And so how do you put a boundary on that with people that you've been hanging around with? It could be even be family. How do you put a boundary around, I no longer gossip? So I started telling people, oh, I'm no longer gossiping. And some people got so offended and then they left my life. And I was like, oh, that was easy. It's like at first you're offended. At first, okay, brought up that feeling, that trigger. But then it's like, okay, well, you're putting it out there to yourself and to the universe. I am stopping the gossip, which ends a lot of drama. And so, did I lose a lot of friends? Yes. Or shall I say, did they lose me? Yes. And your social circle will get smaller and smaller and smaller when you make a commitment like that to stop gossiping, because so many people gossip and it's how they socialize. It's how you get together. And they'll say things like, well, I'm not gossiping or anything, but, and then they get into this big long story of how they were severely offended. And it involves tearing down other people. And haven't we been doing that for way too long, particularly females? The pitting of women against each other, the tearing down of women, it's got to stop. And so I stopped, and my social circle came to a stop as well. And so a lot of relationships changed. And so again, you're seeing how I made a commitment to change. And was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. Not to say that I loved to gossip, but it is addictive. Gossiping is addictive, just like all these shadows that we've been talking about. Whatever shadow comes up for you, whatever those unconscious blocks, whatever those triggers are, it is addictive to continue. And so when you stop an addiction, any addiction, whether it's booze, whether it's gossip, whether it's food, whatever your addiction is, your body will crave it. Okay. Smoking, your body's going to crave it. Gossip, your body reacts. Your body wants gossip. So it took me a long time to not just give in and meet people where they're at, right? I'm not going to be meeting people down here anymore. I want to keep leveling up. And yes, it takes time. And yes, things change. And yes, that's the scariest part. And that's what I was saying in the last podcast. This is where you usually lose people, because to change takes focus and it takes practice. Yes. So those things are a lot of people can do. But then the change comes. The change comes in your life when you stop doing what you were doing, and change is scary. And like I said, when you lose a lot of people that you have always been there, and maybe you start calling them on their behavior, or maybe you remind them, I don't gossip anymore, and that severely offends them, or you refuse to gossip and they leave. So it's difficult. It takes change. It takes focus and practice, yes, but it also will change your life. And so a lot of people aren't ready for that. A lot of people want to keep the status quo. And if I've lost you now and you're saying, okay, well, this was interesting, but now like I know if I stop doing this, I'm going to lose that. And I can't, I can't make a change, for instance, in a marriage, because I want to make all these changes. But if I make the change in my marriage, well, I know we're going to break up. And then what are we going to do? We have a mortgage, all the benefits, the children, you always have a reason why you shouldn't change. So I get it. I do get it, that knowing that a change needs to be made and foreseeing what's going to happen, so many people quit. This is when so many people quit the shadow work. So I'm here to say I've been there. I have made excuses for not doing the change, and then I haven't changed, but the cycles have continued, and they're very uncomfortable to live year after year, decade after decade in the same cycles on repeat until you're willing to say, I'm no longer comfortable here. And that's when you make the change. So we've only just begun. We've only just begun. We've done the brain hacks. I give 7, and they are extremely powerful. Okay. So I do encourage you to get the book. These podcasts definitely are a masterclass on shadow work, and I'm happy to offer this for you on these podcasts. But if you want to dig even deeper, this is a very affordable workbook that you can get on Amazon, and the link's in my link tree. So we've done all this hard work. We've looked at the brain. We've looked at what it does to the body when you stay in autopilot. So then I offer an energetic closing ritual after doing any deep healing work. I offer this to you. And now part 2 is astrology, the power of astrology. So tune into the next podcast, because that's when we're going to get into, okay, what is astrology and how can you combine astrology with shadow work? That's the next level of shadow work that has worked wonders for me and for my clients. So happy to share with you here on the podcast as well as in the book. So tune in again. Thanks so much. And please do offer your feedback and questions. Okay. See you.